It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright, welcome back. We're going to be doing another forum post discussing, apparently it seems like from like probably either a new player, or it seems like at least like the new post, or at least like their first post. It says, where is the variety? They say always the same killers, always the same strategy, always the same perks and loadout, always the same maps, always the same layout, always the same survivors. Where is the variety? It's so boring seeing the same thing over and over again. Now, we can definitely understand that this is definitely stemming from a bit of burnout that's going on with a lot of players, because I've even found myself saying this as well when playing the game. And ultimately, I do agree with that. It's a lot of the same stuff. Whether it be perks, like, because meta's meta, and even as a killer player, a lot of it is quite literally like having to use the same strategies, having to use the same perks, and usually the same add-ons, because there's not a lot of add-ons that can provide a good amount of like benefit depending on the character. So overall, it's just not a great time, I think, for either side, when things are kind of really samey, if that's the right word for it. And yeah, like I get it. But let's go ahead and actually see the responses. It's the first post to hit the nail on the head first try. So this person says, I prefer to pick the things I think are the best so I can consistently have the best experience. I have all achievements. I've given every killer a good go. At this point, I know what I like, so I'd rather just stick to it. I love playing Chaos Shuffle when it's on for the variety. I've always hated Chaos Shuffle personally. I think it's very it's very unfun for the killer side, at least from my perspective, because there's just not a lot of perks that actually are beneficial and don't really like have much of an impact. So I've always had an issue with that. And even the most recent Chaos Shuffle I didn't really like as much either, because I was trying to play Billy, and then I just kind of, I don't know why, I just kept getting counterweight, so it just kind of ruined my my fun, so I just kind of stopped playing it. And then even for Ghostface in particular, when you have weak killers, like, a lot of perks just don't really do anything for those characters, because they're just so bad, and the perks are bad, so like you're just kind of left perkless for your game. While the other players are getting like solid perks, or at least usable perks that provide something. Definitely not great. This person says, because most games have a meta, killers will run what's effective. Can't you expect to use bad perks for killers to lose games all the time? That said, I get the frustration. I'm sick of seeing the Vecnas with whatever builds run Wraith and stuff. Which, yeah, I mean, it just kind of happens. It's unfortunate, but it is just kind of how it goes. I do think that the community kind of sort of optimized the fun out of the game in a lot of ways. So I think that's what ends up leading to what we have now. No, like, to also be fair, like, that's something that just kind of comes with every game that is multiplayer. Like, people will optimize anything and everything to make it more competitive in that sense. That's understandable. And then they say, this person says, because the game's unbalanced, they say that most people will play with whatever is stronger, and if there are only a few strong things, only they will be encountered at the high-MMR brackets. That's concerning everything except maps and serves, which I guess they mean like sort of like survivor selection. They say the maps have weighted probabilities for some reason. Some characters are liked more than others. But yeah, some characters do just have like more quiet grunts of pain, so that does provide a little bit of an advantage. And now I do wish that they would actually like sort of raise up the volume on those characters, because we do have a lot of killers that were deemed too quiet that were changed to be louder. So I would hope that maybe one day we'll have Ace, Ada, Laura, like Renato, like, get their volume on their grunts of pain like raised up a little bit, because Spirit and even Springtrap are two recent examples of characters that were changed apparently because their skins are providing some kind of competitive advantage. Yet, apparently we have survivor selections that are also providing a competitive advantage. So, yeah, I mean, that maybe should be looked into. And this is true. I do agree with what they said here, that like you're seeing this every game. They're saying that they see a bit of more variety, but you know, keep in mind that I will say, like when you are starting out, you're gonna see a lot of variety, and I can see that. I can say this from personal experience, because I don't play like much survivors. So when I do, I go against like 5 different characters that you've never seen before. You're like, what the heck are we talking about? I could have played one game. I could turn around the next match and find a Kaneki. Then I could turn around the next match and then I'll see I don't even know, like Trapper or something. And the next game I'll probably see like Legion or something. Then the next game I might see Wraith. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like these characters are all random. Like which is crazy. Right? But then when we're say, you know, I see people that are going in the, I would assume in the higher level, it's probably going to be the same characters, right? Because those are the ones that win the most. But you know, that's an anecdotal experience, but it's something, right? It's something, you know, maybe it could help. Let's see. This person says, I can confirm I've had months of the same thing over and over as killer. Maybe it's MMR, maybe it's the times that people play, maybe it's a region thing, no idea. But they even stated that they've gotten the same Swift multiple times in a row, apparently. Point is, believe it or not, it's very much possible for people to see zero variety and see the same things repeated after match, which is true. I mean, I can say that from my anecdotal perspective, right? I've seen that on stream, at least. You know, at least it's there as, you know, as a form of some, you know, not always the best form of evidence, but it's something considering it is DBD we're talking about, and it's very hard to have, you know, concrete like perfect evidence all the time. But at least from my anecdotal perspective, I do see a lot of the hyper-focus stakeouts, toolbox, commodious, you know, wire spool, you know, with the charge add-on and you know, repair speed and stuff like that all the time. And I'm seeing like, you know, sprint burst all like at least like twice a game, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And I'm like, man, like there's not a lot of build variety here. Like I'm seeing kind of the same perks with the same stuff, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. That definitely is a thing. So this person says, this is super easy to answer because most killers can compete in the majority of maps. They usually have 100 pals that chain together. Also, most killers' perks are absolute dog water that offer little to no help in slowing gens or chasing. So why run anything other than the meta? Especially since survivors are just going to run the meta as well. Which is a good point. It is a very good point. It's a very good point. That's why a lot of the low tiers are kind of just in the dust at the moment. I've spoken about it plenty of times over the course of months, I would say, just talking about how bad the characters unfortunately are for the killer side. And I do hope that eventually we won't have to sit here and see D tier killers that are in the game, and hopefully, you know, they can be raised up to a minimum of C tier and every character can at least have a fighting chance. Like if we can kind of like sort of squish together a lot of the characters where they're not too far away from each other, but all the abilities are different. So like Blight can be a bit weaker to be in line with everyone else, but then also have like the lower tiers like actually be raised up so that they're actually able to compete. You know, so like at least it's not like super crazy where you can only pick Blight to hold your own against like, you know, the game, but to be able to pick another character and still be able to, you know, compete at least at a relatively good level, it would just be nice. And then from there, I think they can move on to more blanket changes once everything's leveled out. But that's just the way. So I will say, like, this is the one comment that we're gonna see that I want to touch on, because this is something we see a lot in the community. They say that the short answer is the following, and then they say some things in the game. Notice that they say the first thing you see is killer. Look at the rest of the post. There's the word survivor never appears again, or at all. See? Something's in the game, you see, and then the bias shows immediately. This is why I say language is very important. You need to make sure. That's why I pointed out in these videos the language that people use to point out their perspectives and points and things like that will give you a lot of information as to what perspective they're holding, and it'll give you a lot of perspective as to what they're trying to sort of convince you to believe. Because keep in mind, they're showing clear bias from the very beginning by only putting in parentheses killer first. That's the first thing in the list. It didn't say, oh, just perks and tactics. They said killer, then perk tactics. And then they say, as soon as something new hits the ground and fresh air can reach the game, the community systemically, I don't know why they spelled it like that, cries out to please nuke the new thing. So I'm pretty sure this might be one of the same people that were saying that the fog vials magically didn't need to be nerfed, when there was clear evidence that from at least 5 videos I've covered even as well in the past that show that the fog vials were incredibly overtuned, and yet there's still people to this day that believe that it was balanced. To this day, when there was evidence, like we're talking about 5 different videos or from 5 different creators, and I even offered my own video in that same video of my own, like literally me going against the fog vial. So believe it or not, people still believed that it needed to stay the way it was. It's crazy, dude. Crazy. But this might be one of the same people. This person had a incredible variety of killers, only one repeat killer. Which is true. I'm saying this as like what I was saying earlier because I don't have much experience playing the survivor side. So I know that my MMR level with that side is going to be low. So like I already know that the variety is crazy high when you're around that point because everybody's kind of experimenting and kind of just playing around pretty much because they're at low, like they're pretty casual, so they're going to be picking whatever they like. And I'm pretty sure once you get up there, when you're winning like super consistently, you're probably going to find the people that are also winning super consistently as well. And this person says that every mediocre can get free downs these days, which is completely inaccurate. Let's see. At the end of the day, like it's what you can pull off as a survivor player at the end of the day. And this person says like people tend to use the meta. This has always been the case. It's gotten worse over the last few years because of the power creep the meta, which leaves the old content to rust. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good point. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like different perspectives on this, but for the most part, like it kind of boils down to like what I was saying. So this person says low tiers can't keep up in a heavy aura cooldown heavy game now. This says you guys go play Trapper against 11 and see how that goes. Go play Oni against Warlord, see how that goes. Even my boy Cenobite isn't any better. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few good takes from this individual that we actually can see, where yeah, like it's just very difficult for a lot of the lower to mid-level strength characters. It's just that bad. And as we can even see here with the nightlight, I'm assuming evidence here from this person, which is nice. We're actually seeing some actual evidence being used. And notice that the most used survivor perks are all the ones I personally have seen in my matches, right? Deja vu, which people had. Like I remember like back when I talked about Deja vu, they said it wasn't meta, and lo and behold, it's, at least according to the screenshot, 19%. So like one of the most used perks in the game. Lie the windows, resilience, sprint burst, dead hard, decisive finesse, like all of these perks. All of these. Most used is pain res, lethal, nowhere to hide, barbecue, pop, turn back the clock, dead man's, corrupt. Like when you look at these, it makes sense. And when I'm looking at the perks for killer selection, I look at each one and I understand each one individually, like, perfectly. Because when I see pain res, I go, okay, that's probably because a lot of people want slowdown. People say that pain res is the best perk for slowdown, and the only ones that can actually use pain res to its best the best of its ability is going to be the S tier killers. So that's already a good starting point as it is, right? Then lethal makes sense because you want to be able to cut down on the time it takes to actually find somebody at the early game, because that's very important. Nowhere to hide also being up there, that also makes sense. A lot of people like to hide when people hear the terror radius. So being able to have aura on somebody who is hiding in a bush somewhere or around the corner, ready to tap the gen after you kick it, that makes sense. Pop as well, same thing for the pain res. People say that pop's good. I think it's very situational on the character though. Barbecue, same thing. Like, that's very effective on high mobility characters. So if you are using a Blight or a Billy, or Kaneki or whatever have you, these characters have high mobility. Makes complete sense. Now, turn back the clock is also brand new, and that's also probably why it's getting used. And with Deadman's, that makes sense because people use it with pain res. So these are, interesting examples to be shown. And notice that, like, a lot of the high use perks that are being used by Survivor are very, very strong. Like, we have Finesse that can literally save you from taking injuries, like a lot of, like, especially against M1 killers. Windows giving you quite literally an opportunity to go from yellow bar to yellow bar. You got Live that can literally, like, give you the distance you need to reach something else. Sprint Burst, same thing. Dead Hard and Decisive to counteract these strategies being used from the killer side, stuff like that. So I'm like, all these things are, compounded and make sense. So they say, as it is from Nightlight, some people have probably already clicked downvote, but it's not being presented for isolated reasons. It's how absolutely solved the game's meta is for both sides. The Survivor perks are focused on extending chases, with a secondary focus on improving gen speeds and anti-tunnel. The killer perks are focused on slowing down gens, with a secondary focus on reducing the time between chases. The game has become so formulaic that out of the vast number of perks for each side, the top pick on each side has an over 25% proliferation rate alone, not to mention that multiple other perks in the top 8 fit the same usage reason. That is extremely bad. Which, yeah, I mean, they're making a good point. They say that, yes, it's a curated set, and no, it does not represent the overall population of the game. It is not being posted for those types of reasons. It's meant to help explain that the people who do take the game as seriously as to submit their statistics to a tracking site like that feel the reasons behind the perks need to be addressed that thoroughly. Which is exactly what I was trying to say when I covered Nightlight in the past. It's like, if these people are willing to take the time out of their day to play the game, and then after playing the game, submit the data to be like, here you guys go, community, here's the information we've collected, that means that they must be pretty dedicated. That must mean that they actually do care enough about the game to actually want to do that. And I think that would at least give me a little bit of hope that the data is not poisoned. The data is not to push to a different side, or to try to push a perspective, or push for some kind of change that they specifically want, that could potentially hurt the game. It gives me at least a little bit of some good faith that from them, at least, that they are trying to give accurate information, because we don't have it. And they say it's not about windows of obsession or obsession, which is a good way to describe it. Scourge pain relief being OP. Scourge pain relief. It's about the fact that a very significant portion of the player base, they feel mandatory to have a reasonably enjoyable game. The irony is that aspects like gen speed overlap between the two, which shows a clear indication that it is seen as an extremely volatile element to your average game, due to its combination of the relativity at times value and the amount of control that the opposing perks can have over it. That then branches out onto similar considerations, like how windows are focused on finding people quickly, or killers rather, I should say. I don't know why I said windows. While survivors are focused on lasting as long as people as possible in chase. All comes down to time, it says. I mean, they're cooking it up right now. Nobody feels like they have enough time to play in other ways. There's focus shifts to efficiency and avoiding self-sabotage by having lack thereof. Gen rushing, tunneling, tracking, identifying resources, everything that people choose to bring into the game is more focused on increasing one's own odds than it is about having fun. It bleeds into everything from items to add-ons to killer choices, even survivor choices based on their volumes or ability to be stealthy. As long as there are correct choices, the rest of the content sadly becomes no better than unnecessary bloat in the average player's eyes. And they pretty much summarized it very well. I mean, it takes a lot of time to be able to lay out the foundation when you're talking about DVD, unfortunately. But once it's laid down, you basically pull out the whole stove and the fridge and the countertops and even the cabinets to start cooking it up. You know what I'm saying? And all the pots are laid out, dog. Like, it's crazy because they cook it up with stuff like this because it's very accurate. It covers a lot of, you know, basically what it is about the game and like why the variety is like basically gone. And it, you know, it makes sense. So yeah, and then they kind of like go off back and forth. But either way, I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. What do you guys think about the variety in DBD? Do you think that it could be improved? How would you improve it? And consider hitting the like button and subscribing for more content like this. If you really want to support the channel, you can become a member on Patreon and YouTube to have other kinds of videos that aren't always DBD either, which is pretty fun. And I will see you guys in the next one. Consider subbing on Twitch as well. I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off our members from Patreon. Pro King 101, YouTube members: Cargan Falcon, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not JLo, Evil Peach, Cozy Bozy, Theo Endire, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. And for the Twitch, we have Final Girl Bunny, Leona Art, Zazabu, Evil Blade, Danica, Crow Vader, Cake is a Road, Zeneron, Ginsburg, Mr. Morik, Kevin, Zero Mocker, Ashai Boo, and Gryffindor. Appreciate you guys supporting. Really means a lot. If you want to become a member, you can go ahead and join through Patreon or YouTube members, or even sub on Twitch. See you guys in the next one.